Welcome to Ag and Culture. Hey, I'm LaGrand, Elliott, your host today. Got a special guest in the studio with me today. I got Mr. Joe Jennings. He's founder CEO of T.I.M.E Holding Company. T.I.M E is an agriculture tech company headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. What we're going to do today, we're going to dive, of course, agriculture is all about anything agriculture, more important specifically how it impacts farmers and ranchers of color. Joe, welcome to the show. But before I really get into that, I just want to run down some of your pedigree before we get started, because I'm excited about this. First of all, there's an agriculture tech company, and we're gonna circle back to that. That's headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. You're a native Mississippian, born and raised in Laurel, Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, you hold a BBA in banking finance and a BS degree from Mississippi State University, Stark Vegas. Shout out to all the Bulldog Nation out there. Joe, and you've worked with some of the largest Wall Street firms out there. Some of my favorites, Bear Stearns, I used to call it Mookie, but it's Morgan Keegan, Raymond James, Royal Bank of Canada, just to name a few. Joe, welcome to the show. Great to have you here, man.
It's great to be here, LaGrand. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, man. So, Joe, here we're all about farm management here. I know our listeners and our viewers also will know that we're all about getting the information out there, and not enough information to me transcends down to where it needs to go. One of the things, Joe, just tell me a little bit about T.I.M.E and what T.I.M E Holdings is all about.
Sure. T.I.M E Holdings, we're a technology company, and we're passionate about agriculture. We're passionate about helping farmers. And so I created the holding company to really house several different enterprises to address various needs in agriculture.
Sure.
So T.I.M.E is our farm financial management, risk management software that we'll talk a little bit about today.
Yeah.
We've also created some software similarly for livestock, and that's called Vaster. And then we have a company called DataNAC, and we call that the sandbox. That's where I like to play.
Okay.
And that's where we collect all this big data from all kind of sources, and we structure it and we store it, and we create these really cool models.
So basically, T.I.M.E develops through algorithms and mathematics these data points that in turn will be able to allow the farmer to connect their data. And I think one of the things that I'm learning from you is that what makes this program, and by the way, folks, this is a farm financial management software that to me is going to revolutionize how farming is done in the 21st century. And I thought it was important to have you, Joe, on the show to talk about financial farm management, also talk about the importance of our own data on our farms and making sure we utilize that data to make those necessary decisions that we need to make. We'll go in the weeds a little bit with it. With T.I.M.E, what information would a farmer need? If I'm a farmer and I say, okay, Joe, you've got this financial software, but man, I'm in the fields, I'm working on tractors, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. Software is not. So can you just kind of tell me how is that infused into the farmer's normal daily operations?
Do that. And so T.I.M.E, first of all, it's process. Technology is not just software.
Sure.
It's not just your cell phone.
Right.
Technology is it's any new way of doing things that makes it easier, better, more profitable. So that's technology.
Yeah.
And so we first look at T.I.M.E as a process. And it's kind of funny when I speak to farmers and we talk about farming, they have this subconscious type of knowledge. We get in the car, we can drive 5 miles, we don't remember turning it on, but we've been talking on the cell phone. Well, they farm that way. They don't have to think about at the end of the season, once they've harvested, turning things under, setting beds, putting out P&K, planting, post-emergence. They don't even think about that. They just go do that in their sleep.
It's just in their sleep.
They do it in their sleep. But when it comes to the financial world, creating budgets, do I select ARC, PLC? What insurance do I get? And how do I allocate crops? Do I grow how many acres of soybeans versus corn? That's stuff that all of a sudden, that's not really what they enjoy doing.
Sure.
Because they're producers, and that's what they love.
Right.
So T.I.M.E, we look at it first as a process, and it's a process of collecting your data. Now, here's a good thing for farmers, LaGrand. they don't have to do anything, okay, except give us the permission to do it. And so we provide farmers a vault with what we call a SaaS agreement. It's software as a service, and that agreement says this is your data. No one can have it. It's yours. It belongs to you. We're legally bound to protect that on your behalf. And so, as you know, a lot of farmers, everybody wants their data.
Right.
And so, first of all, we're kind of turning the industry a little bit on its head and providing that safe vault. It's their data. Now, like Facebook and LinkedIn, the farmers can also share that data. They can pick what they want and click a box. And so we collect the data. And that data is everything from financial data to tax data. It's their 578, their farm data. It's their balance sheet data, it's financial data. And so the vault gives them the ability to store as much information as we'll structure it, we put it in. And then once your data's there, you go into creating your budgets. And the budgets, guess what? If you don't know how to create a budget and you're in Mississippi, well, Mississippi State has created budgets for you. So you can click on your Mississippi State irrigated soybean budgets, and then your ARC PLC, those are math problems. So we do the math, and it tells you where they're going to pay, optimize insurance, and then prepare you to go to the bank. And so that's the process. And so we believe, to the extent that we can make it easier for the farmer can get to his chart, his graph, or his table. And he's got his data there, he's going to make good decisions.
That's right.
So the software, T.I.M.E really supports, the software supports the process.
So so our viewers will follow this, because it's such a granular type of conversation, but I want to keep it high level to where people can see where we're going and why this is important. And I appreciate those things. So Joe, as a farmer, so you're telling me with this software, with this financial farm management system called T.I.M.E, so I get the software, and tell me again, I know that there's several, and we'll make sure we put these up on the screen, or they'll be available on our site, as well as your information about what items, when you say my data, what items would I need to produce to you? So what you're saying is you can take my planted acres information. You can take the locations of those planted acres, right? You can store my information as far as my financial information. When you say that, you mean like balance sheets? The whole gamut for that. So we put all these forms in, even all my FSA forms, my CCC, I'm better than I do 866, the
base acres,
base acres, right? And then we need my APH, or my average production history, right? All right. So if I've got that, so some of these documents, if I don't have them like at home, my local FSA office should have these on file, right? Okay.
Yeah, we'll even call the FSA office on your behalf. Once you sign your documents, we really look at ourselves as we're the farmer's chief technology officer, chief data officer.
Chief data officer.
So we'll do as much work for the farmer, and because honestly, the farmers, they don't like dealing with this type of stuff. And so we try to take the load off and on their behalf and collect it, and we store it for them.
And that's why I was going with that. It's like, we're talking, you're saying computers, you're saying software, and now I'm saying farmer, and I'm going, oh man, how does that resonate? But from what you're saying is that with T.I.M.E, I can put in all of my information. This is not cookie cutter information. This is actual real data that's coming from my farm operations. So my FSA information, my banker would have my bank statements and all of those things I would need for that, right? And my crop agent would have all of my Schedule Fs, right? So you're telling me that I can put my financial information data points in there. I can put my planted acres in there. I can put my production history of those acres in there. And I can add my Schedule F, which is my crop insurance information. So once I put all that information in, Joe, what does that mean to me?
Once you have your information, then we've structured it where it goes into a budget model. And it's really simple, okay? For example, I'll go back to the example for your Mississippi farmers. If you're producing soybeans and you're not sure what your cost is and they're irrigated, Mississippi State, you have their budget. And then it could be seed costs, could be, let's say it's $60 an acre. And you say, I get better deals than that. My seed's $50. So it's just a matter of changing to 50. So we made it really easy.
Right. So all this, like you're talking about, even like with Mississippi farmers and Mississippi State's budget tool, that's actually inside of this T.I.M.E software.
It is, yes. Okay. And it's across the nation. So, for example, a farmer in Georgia would have a Georgia budget, or Auburn budget in Alabama, LSU budget, in Kansas, a Kansas budget.
So it sounds like you're actually taking real-time academia data and our USDA real-time data, and you're extracting that information into one place, but now once it gets there, you're able to disperse it based upon the data points of that farmer. Did I say that correctly?
That's correct, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It takes a massive amount of data from so many different places. If you think about it, crop insurance, that comes from the USDA, the Risk Management Agency, the RMA. We can have, if in our yield models where we're forecasting yields, we're bringing weather data in from NOAA. We're bringing all these different databases that they come in. And so in order for the farmers to run a farm, to create your budget, you're bringing data from all these different places. And so we look at it, LaGrand, it has to be kind of like Apple Music. You just hit your Apple button and you pick a song.
And that's what we are. I mean, going into the 21st century, I mean, that's what we are. I mean, just as people. But now into agriculture, it really takes on a different approach.
It sure does.
For that. So, Joe, now that I'm getting excited because I see a lot of boxes being checked off. The first one was a major one. I think that record keeping seems to be one of the biggest Achilles heels that I've seen for disadvantaged producers. But it sounds like with T.I.M.E, I'm able to put, what am I planting? Is it non-irrigated, irrigated? Where is it located, right? I've got my average production history, so I can see all this stuff, my data in real time. So we mentioned ARC PLC. And so for some of our viewers who may not be in our speak in risk management, talk a little about what does ARC stand for and PLC, and what do they mean as it relates to a row crop producer? Okay,
well the Farm Bill provides some disaster relief programs. And there's two different ways. There's one under the Farm Services Agency, and that's where the ARC and the PLC programs reside. ARC stands for an area risk coverage. And so it requires a farmer to have base acres. And so base acres typically and there's some rules for it. You know, 10 acres that you have a 10-year history. And so of corn. And now on that base acres, you could have corn, you could have cotton, you could have soybeans, you could have peanuts, a number of crops, but whatever the base acres that you have,
and you're putting those
then there's a market price. And so under an area risk is a combination of an area revenue. So if your yields or prices go lower, the ARC program will pay a farmer for that loss. Price loss coverage, PLC, it's just based on prices. If the prices fall below the market threshold, then there's a revenue that's paid to the farmer. This is interesting because this is the program that the U.S. government provides to the farmer who has base acres at no cost. Now, under the Risk Management Agency, that's where you go for your federal crop insurance. And there's some rules about participating in ARC and what you can do in the insurance.
So even with that, and that's why my brain is going here. So first of all, I've got all this in one spot. So if I click on my computer and I look at all my base acres. Okay, I've got 500 acres in Hinds County. I've got another 500 acres in Tunica County, and I've got 1,000 acres down in Jones County. So I can actually put those in my vault, so to speak. So now, and that information comes from FSA, right? Because you talked about the acreages, and it has to have some thresholds for what is considered a base acreage, but FSA would have all that information. If I'm like, man, what are my base acres? I don't know. That's what FSA originally gave you as a farmer, right? To say these are your base acres, right? So I'm just saying that for the sake of argument, if once a farmer is to a point where they can enter this information, that's the information. This is where this information can be pulled from, right? Okay. So I think I got it now, Joe. So we've got a vault that's got housing my financial documents, It's housing my Schedule F documents for my crop insurance, and it's handling my base acreages, right? So far I've got that. So I've got all this in Tilly, right? So with what I have now, and the farmer has it in there, now what? What does this do for me?
Well, we've structured it in a way where now we can go to those charts, tables, and graphs.
Sure.
Okay, because the farmers, what I've learned working with farmers across the country, if you can show them the numbers in a graph or a chart or a table, they know what to do. It's amazing how much better decisions they make.
Right. So Joe, I mean to cut you off, my mind is going here. So you mean to tell me that if I put in this information into Tilly, and we're talking about ARC PLC as a farmer, it takes the guesswork out of that for me. There's no more anecdotal going to the co-op. Hey man, what did you do this year? None more of that. Your data, no pun intended, is actually looking at what you have, what your farms are producing, and it comes up with whether or not you should go, or what's going to pay out. I should say what you should go with. Which one's going to pay out?
We think that there's a lot of tedious math. So the reference price is based upon a 5-year Olympic average. You take the last 5 years, you drop the high, the low, you average 3 in the middle. And so we're not dealing with calculus. There's just a lot of calculations.
And Tilly does this, and that's why I want to be clear. I don't want to get too, like people think, oh my God, I want this. No, we're just talking about the technology part of it, but to the end user, this puts everything in one portal.
Yeah, exactly.
That you can wake up, some farmers, 3:30ers or 4 o'clockers, and you could click on with your coffee and your computer, and you could really look at for this season and look at what you did last year, because you got all that data in front of you, and then that data can be put up against what market averages were. So it makes you have a more informed decision, like, well, maybe I don't need to plant beans this year. Maybe I need to look at just cotton and corn this year. Or I may need to increase my soybean outputs, because it may be. So this is almost not only a repository, but it's actually helping you strategically to make better risk decisions.
Right, it is. I mean, there's always decision. How many acres of soybeans do I grow versus corn?
Right.
Do I grow more corn? Okay.
Right.
And that's, as we look at that just in the budget, okay, farmers will say, okay, this is what I think I'm going to do. But when you get into the insurance model, once you can see that you can insure them, a lot of times I have farmers say, you know what, I'm going to grow more beans because the crop insurance that I can take out on beans makes it more likely I'm going to make money.
Right.
I may not make as much if I just grow all corn, but I'm going to make money, and I'm going to make good money. And so I'm going to allocate my acres a little bit different than I thought.
Right.
Because now I have the ability to look at not only the budget, but also to look at how insurance are going to pay for those crops.
Right. And you mentioned, obviously, you mentioned crop insurance again, and we'd be remiss with this program if we did not thank RMA for all their vision to know that this is needed as far as financial literacy, farm financial literacy for our disadvantaged producers, and even some of our that are non-disadvantaged producers. Farm financial literacy is farm financial literacy. But we want to thank RMA for having the vision to know that this help is needed, that the outreach, the technical support is needed and is there. And I think that results are starting to happen from a standpoint of awareness.
Right.
We talked about crop insurance, and that's one of the things that explained like what Tilly does. Tilly can actually, when you put in your Schedule F information, essentially you're putting in all the necessary information that would be needed to quote you on crop insurance. So from a standpoint, and again, this is not financial advice or anything like that. We want you to definitely consult your financial advisor on this. But with Tilly, this information is there. So if I have my financial information in Tilly and I pulled it up, so you mean to tell me that when my Schedule Fs are on there, and for folks who don't know what we're talking about, the Schedule F is basically the equivalent of a 1040 EZ form. This is just a farm, agriculture financial form that's used by the IRS. So we say Schedule F, we're basically talking about an agriculture 1040 tax form. So I didn't want to get too far in the jargon with that, like, what do they mean Schedule F? What is that? But most farmers, producers will know what a Schedule F is. But all that information is in Tilly, right? So once I get it in Tilly, I'm able to look myself before I even consult my crop agent. I can look at if I've got irrigated corn and I want to do, I want to do some revenue and some yield protections on those RPYP, then I can look at that and what that scenarios may look like, right? I could actually look at that before I even go. So to me, and I'll let you finish this up, it seems like it brings a more closeness to the crop agent and the producer through tillage.
It sure does, and that's part of the objective. The farmers, the farmers are now, they're CEOs of big businesses. This equipment costs a lot of money, inputs cost a lot of money. So around the farmer's table, there's the ag lender, there's the crop insurance agent, there's commodity advisors. It could be extension. It could be a number of folks that are advising the farmer. And so the more that we can help connect the farmer, and it's the farmer's management team.
Sure.
So the more that we can help take this data and connect it where the farmer can really get his hands around it, understand it, he's going to be in a much more knowledgeable position as he goes to his experts.
Sure.
The farmer's not going to know a lot of the details of the math of crop insurance, but we start with how much money can you afford to lose an acre?
That's right.
And the farmer may say, I can lose $100 an acre. But the banker may say, you can't lose any money.
Any money, that's right.
So now that's a very important conversation with the crop insurance agent.
Instead of having those conversations in siloed mode, they're actually together. So you just made a great example, crop agent may say, you can lose, whatever you can lose. And you say, well, I can lose this on an acre. And the banker's going, you can't lose anything. But everybody's communicating together. And that's the importance of having all of your data points in one repository, so all this information is there for you.
Right. Yeah. And I've had farmers. One of my really good friends made a statement that he said, I just don't want to farm scared anymore. And that's one of the things that he, as he taught about tillage, he said, I just don't want to farm scared anymore. So, farming, if you're out there on your own and you're having to make all these silo decisions and you're not really certain because you really don't have the organization of data in place, it's lonely. Yeah. And to the extent that we can create a better management table to the farmer, so the farmer can manage the folks that are around him, those resources. Right. He's not farming alone.
That's right.
And he's getting much better information.
And he's being proactive instead of reactive.
Absolutely.
When you have the data points there, and that's what I think, what I'm loving about Tilly, is that I can see my information there. If I need to see, again, where my base acres are, my production history, which is huge. I mean, we can't go forward without knowing what the history was for our productions. I got my Schedule F information in here, and now you're going to tell me about my financial information. You need my balance sheets. What if I don't have that? What if we do our taxes, but I don't have this big performer, or I want to get into Tilly, but when it gets to this section, I'm not sure, or are there any templates? Are there any things in there to help them with that?
We've created templates. If you think about this, the housing market in the United States, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, all the banks, all the lenders, mortgage bankers, they use the same documentations. So it made sense to me. Let's get the farmers that type of documentation. So it makes all the lenders' life a lot easier. So, for example, your equipment inventory, we've created a schedule, and you just list your equipment and what do you owe on it, and what are your payments, annual payments, your interest rate, and those are things that we're able to organize. And that that equipment, that's part of farm liquidity too.
Yeah, that's part of your liquidity. And when we say liquidity, we mean that how liquid, how much cash. I mean, how much, if something were to happen today, could you stand the rain, so to speak? Could you go to the bank and get it out? That's when we say liquidity. So you've got these templates in there. So I'm putting in all my financial, but not just that, but what you're saying is, if I've got rippers and everything else on my current inventory list, it is a template. So if I don't have a good inventory list, I've got some, hey, there's no excuse now. I can have that. So what you're saying is, I can see everything. I can see not only what I have asset-wise as far as equipment, and maybe the value of it, and what debt, also the ones that I actually have still debt on. I got tractor notes on.
Your debt schedule.
Your debt schedule. So you're able to put all of that into Tilly, right? So if I've got my base acres, again, I'm going back because I'm just trying to sync it up to be like, okay, base acres, where my stuff's planted, all that, right? Then I've got my Schedule F information for my crop insurance. So once I get all this in here, then when I put my budgets in, I put my schedule of assets in and my debt structure liabilities in there. At the end of all of this, and it goes back to what I think we'll talk about for the rest of the show, is bankability. So now you can go into the bank a lot more prepared, not only for the banker, but for yourself as the farmer, because you're more confident in knowing this is what's really the good, the bad, and the ugly that's going on in my operation. I've got a 8-row. I got 3 8-row planters back here. Nothing wrong with them. They've been collecting rust on them, but we hadn't looked at, okay, well, maybe we need to look at, sending them to auction or selling it wholesale or something. And maybe that money that we make off of selling some of those assets off can go back to the business, which will hopefully increase my liquidity levels.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the key advantages of having your information organized.
Yeah.
And having it laid out where it's just really simple and easy to get to. Farmers know what to do.
Right.
They know that tractor out there, they haven't used it in 2 years, and they can sell that thing and pay off some debt. And guess what? The liquidity ratios goes up, and and their ability to have more credit, better terms, lower rates. Those are things that accrue, but to having your data structured
that way. So Joe, and that's what I was getting to, and that's why I want you on the show. Once we put this information in, and it's not a whole lot of information, and that's why I keep breaking it down. I mean, when we say my planted acres, I'm getting that from my FSA documents, right? All right. I'm getting my Schedule F information from going to my crop agent, but I'm getting that from my CPA.
Well, there's a couple places you can. The 578. We can call the FSA office because that's where it will originate with the farm service, local farm services agency.
Yes.
In the county that you're farming in.
Of course.
So we can go provide that. Your crop insurance agent can provide it. The farmer can provide it. We work really hard to make sure that the farmer doesn't have to do anything except make money with the data and the structure.
Right. So this is truly a team Tilly, no pun intended.
It's team Tilly.
So we talked about that. So explain, to our viewers that, and for me, RMA has been phenomenal at doing this. Full disclosure, I do some work with the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture through the RMA, the Navigator program, which is the Crop Insurance Navigator program. And I met you and heard about the technology that you were developing specifically for this audience, for farmers. Was just amazing because the two worlds collide. I mean, crop insurance and risk management for some of our disadvantaged farmers, this is something that's almost taboo in a sense. Especially for especially crop growers, maybe not so much as row croppers because that's just a deal. Crop insurance is just a deal. But even what I'm finding in that, we don't know if it's a deal or not because what I'm finding is, I'm not saying all. I don't want people give me hate mail. I'm not saying all, but I'm saying a vast majority of row crop producers that I've come in contact with, they have a product, but they don't necessarily know what their product does and how that's is it going to really benefit my operation. And I look at it from a couple of different angles. One is how involved with the data collection that you give to the agent. And I say that because if they're working on limited amounts of data, they can only do suggestions of where you may need to land or where you may need to be, right?
Right.
And the farmer may not be as versed on RP, YP, we can talk stack. If you're not in tune with that, it's just kind of like, okay, dude, just give me something so I don't lose my farm. And when something goes wrong and they look at it, it's like, okay, well, I have crop insurance, which is number one, great, okay? But does it really pay out or do the thing that they need to do to hedge that risk for your farm? That's one of my biggest numbers that how accurate is the data, so that the more accurate the data, the more accurate that crop agent can be with making sure you get into the program that's going to be suffice for your operation.
Right.
Yeah.
Really, that's where, there really is this process, and it goes back to the budget and determine what does it cost you an acre to grow soybeans, or what does it cost an acre to grow corn?
Right.
So once you know that cost of acre, let me give you a good example. Let's say down here in Mississippi, let's say that it's going to cost you, let's say $500 an acre to grow soybeans. And so your yields, let's say that your 5-year yield has been 55 bushels an acre. Well, they could be zero, right? So the first thing you approach risk management, what is my range of yields? Well, if they go to zero, it doesn't matter what the price is. You have zero in revenue, right?
Right.
If it's $10, then you're going to have $500 in revenue,
Right.
And so you'll cover. Let's break even. So it really starts with what is your range of yields, okay, and then where can we expect prices to go? And so we have all the potential earning numbers, revenue numbers, and then subtract your revenue from your cost, and so you see your potential earnings. So we start with that stress test. What are the potential? Because we don't, as we sit here at the beginning of the planting season, we don't know how many bushels we're going to grow, and we don't know the prices that we're going to sell.
That's right.
So it could be a range. And so we, first of all, once we know that budget, we can start coming into the financials, and that's where how much money can you afford to lose. And this is really critical to have your lender involved.
Yes.
Because the lender, particularly now, but as we go through the T.I.M.E process, you're going to know.
Yeah.
You're going to know a lot of
Well,
this.
that's yeah.
But the lender may say, hey, you cannot lose more than $100 an acre. And so if that's the case, what crop insurance do you choose?
Right.
And there's a lot of combinations.
That's right.
where the math comes in.
That's
so
right.
we look at it where I wanted to create Tilly, and where we can put in maximum loss, $100 an acre. And then Tilly does all the math,
Right.
it spits out and gives you every possible
scenario,
every possible choice, how much it costs.
Yeah.
And there may be a couple different types of policies that you may say, hey, I could kind of use either one of these. Then you can compare them side by side. And so that really prepares the farmer. Once the farmer knows how much risk they can take.
That's right.
You're a Wall Street guy, and you know how it works. You're giving some money to trade, and you can only lose so much of that money, or you're going to go home and get a new job.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're teaching farmers to think like that, like that professional trader, because they are commodity traders. Right. Determine your risk, and then let's look at all the possibilities of insurance, and let's narrow it down into the policies that offset the risk that we choose to take. So often farmers don't know how much risk they're taking.
And that's I mean, I'm glad you said that. But yes, they don't know how much risk you're taking, and a lot of that goes back to you don't know because all your data points aren't in one place to really be analyzed all in real time together. Like we're making like a sandwich. We got your base acre down here, and we've got your Schedule F, we've got your financials, and we've got your debt schedules, and we're sandwiching all that stuff in, and we're pushing out the data that if you're going to look at crop insurance, this is what this looks like at whether it's at 50% level or 85% level. This is where you are. SEO, this is where you are. So you're able to really see that. So it's not that Tilly's not about the farmer understanding all these algorithms and mathematics, but it's just to really show them this is where our operations are. Based upon our financials from the previous year, this is what we'd be looking at for crop insurance based upon the crops, irrigated, non-irrigated. We go into all the criteria for crop insurance. But at least that farmer has a handle on what it is that he or she may need to do. And it helps, it assists the banker and it assists the crop agent so much that now they can really go out and find those products that are right for them because they're dealing with true numbers and not anecdotal numbers.
Right. No. LaGrand, this is part of the connection of what we call big data, the connection of big data to the farm.
Right.
Because there's a couple of types of policies. You can buy farm specific, revenue for your farm. They'll insure you against specific loss on your farm.
Right.
Or you can buy area risk coverage.
Right.
Okay. And that area risk coverage just pays based upon the county. So when you have your historical yields over the last 10 years, And if you're just correlating with the county, or if you're just tracking the county, it doesn't matter if you're above it or below it.
Sure.
But if you know how you perform with the county, now you have the ability to participate in, for example, ECO or SEO or area policies at much cheaper levels, which means for the same money you spend on the farm, you can actually increase your coverage. So that's why it's so important with data, so that you can see all of the opportunities for risk reduction and for profit optimization.
Yep. Joe, I had, again, a couple of stats that just really stuck out. 1,600, and these stats are from USDA's agricultural census. So I always want to tell all of my producers out there, I know it's a pain sometimes, but please, 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 please fill out that USDA agricultural census, because it affects and impacts the data so that we know where the most need for help is, so that we can get to those producers. But just some alarming facts, not that it's nothing new, but when you really look at them on paper, it's startling. Only 1,600 black farmers operate farms that are larger than 500 acres. Only about 150 produce cotton in 2022. About 1,800 farmers nationwide produce corn and soybeans. Now, just for my viewers now, this could be a plus or minus 5 or 10, because we're talking about a census that may or may not have been fully completed or even turned in. But I mean, even if it was 10x, we talked earlier, even if it was 10x, we're talking about 150 producers, even if that was 10x, that's really not a whole lot of black producers that are producing cotton as of 2022. And I've said that to kind of bring this to a head, and what T.I.M.E is that, do you see T.I.M.E as somewhat being that greater equalizer for smaller marginalized farmers who don't have the capital to kind of do what the big boys do and have those resources at your disposal? But this is something that really makes sense for farmers to embrace. And the thing that I'm excited about with you, Joe, and with Datos and T.I.M.E is that you took this to USDA RMA.
Yeah.
And you guys came up with a 2-year pilot program right now, and I'll let you expound on that right now, between a partnership with Team T.I.M.E and RMA, you guys are producers in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and I'm leaving out one.
Georgia. And then next year, we're going to do some work in islands, in Puerto Rico and down in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
So this is a 2-year pilot you have with RMA that you're essentially subsidizing T.I.M.E, if you will, through a partnership with RMA for disadvantaged farmers and ranchers for 2 years. And basically, this is going to entail, you stop me when I'm not correct, this will entail, will be a free service for this 2-year pilot program for farmers to utilize and get on this software. Is that a fair assessment?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, with RMA and your partnership, there's obviously a crusade, I call it a crusade, to spread the word about Team T.I.M.E and what T.I.M.E is. And I know that people are like, what is T.I.M.E? What is it? It's a financial farm management system that will help farmers. And because we have generational shifts going on now, we have younger farmers who are coming in, new and beginning farmers and ranchers, as well as ranchers or farmers that are coming in that are taking over family operations. That T.I.M.E is going to be that great equalizer when you have to manage a farm from afar. And it sounds like a misnomer, but from what I've seen with T.I.M.E actually makes that possible to do that from afar in some aspects, which is refreshing, because we have a lot of progressive, younger, I call them the young guns, farmers that are row crop producers that are coming in, and they are excited about this type of technology. And I am, because this to me is the great equalizer. When we're not, you see our average stats, we're under 500 acres on average. Most of us are 150 acres. But it doesn't matter. But the point of it is there's risk in all of it, and we have to be able to understand how to mitigate those risks.
Right.
And T.I.M.E is a phenomenal tool that you are partnering with RMA to introduce to disadvantaged farmers and ranchers for 2 years. So Joe, how are you getting this out here? What relationships are you growing to let black producers, row crop producers know this exists, this is for them right now? And not only are you going to do the software, but you also provide the training and the technical assistance, which is paramount. It's nothing worse than saying, hey, this is great, and you just throw it out there and you just like, well, good luck with that. But tell me about that, because I understand that there's a whole curriculum around financial literacy, but more importantly, around T.I.M.E.
Let me answer that, because there's a lot of information. So let me kind of put it into some chunks.
Sure.
And, first of all, it's a project sponsored by the RMA. And I want to give some thanks to some really special people. First of all, I'm a Mississippian.
Yeah.
And so in Mississippi, we're family. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, or we're family. And so I read the McKinsey study about what had been happening with black farmers and the massive decline in the numbers over the years and their profit margins, and it's hard anyway. And so there's so many systemic challenges.
Yeah. I mean, these stats. I mean,
it really bothered me. So. It just so happened that one of my dear friends now, Roderick Bell, who's the district director of the RMA, is here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Hello to the RMA office in Flowood, Mississippi.
And so I had some of these ideas, several years ago, and started bouncing them off of Roderick. And it was Roderick who led me into the RMA to open up the doors for resources for me to do the initial research and to bring and to understand the data and where it resides. So I'll say this: it wouldn't happen. This wouldn't be here today without Roderick's leadership and guidance and his love for agriculture. Through Roderick, we had a chance to meet with Administrator Bunger. And,
phenomenal person, phenomenal human being.
Just a lot of times folks at the head of government, get bad raps. But I have to say this: she is one of my favorite people because she cares. I mean, she really did. She really cares.
She does.
And so our conversation really comes back to my days in the FFA here in Mississippi, and the motto is learning to do. Doing to learn.
That's right.
Earning to live and living to serve. But I notice of all the ways we've tried to approach education, it's been more of the PowerPoints, have been the presentation. So it occurred to me that if we could bring farmers where they're hands-on, their data, with their models, that I thought that learning experience could be enriched.
Yeah, because it'd be a little bit more vested. I mean, now we're not playing with monopoly money anymore. We're playing with our money now. Yeah.
So through Administrator Bunger and I've got to say Joel Richmond and Davina Lee, we've had some great folks to help us. So we created a project team, T.I.M.E, and TEAM stands for technology, empowerment, actions, and measurement. Most important thing I think about is measurement, and for us to pursue this partnership, I wasn't going to do it unless there was some measurable, definable ways that this program would help farmers, and that's either making more money, that's growing their farms, controlling their risk, but at the end of being able to be even more involved in the agriculture community. Through that, introducing children to it. And so this really is a cooperative partnership, and it's sponsored by Administrator Bunger and RMA. We're working with the HCBUs, Fort Valley State. I just spent a day with Dean Wakefield and Dean Woods at Alcorn State, Southern University.
All our friends down on the reservation in Lawrence, Mississippi.
Yeah, and Tuskegee University. So, and as well as the National Black Growers Council. So it's really been a true collaborative partnership where we're putting our heads together and identifying needs. And so you ask me the question, well, how are we going to reach the farmers to inform this about this? So we're working through, if you're a Mississippi farmer, we work through Alcorn State University through their.
So you're working heavily with your 1890 universities
extensions. One of the things I'm very, very passionate about is creating opportunities. You know, I was at Alcorn State and had a chance to speak to students last week, and I was thinking, what would I have liked to have heard when I was sitting in class? So agriculture, you know, it's folks like me, we're getting old.
Yeah.
And we desperately need new blood, and the opportunities are immense. And not just in production, but it's in logistics, it's in marketing, it's in insurance.
And it's so important for kids to understand that it's more to agriculture than just cultivating the land.
Yes.
Yeah. This is only behind the Department of Defense in terms of budgetary spending for the federal government. And you got DOD's one. Department of Ag's too. So, you know, I always try to tell kids that, like, you know, this is bigger than what you could even imagine, because it takes food to feed the world. So, Joe, you mentioned that for 2 years, T.I.M.E is free. Can you kind of expound on how does that work?
Yeah, this is a program that's been financed by the RMA, and we're actually contributing the software so that farmers can participate in this program at no cost. Okay. And so access to it, if you're in Mississippi, Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama. Just ask your extension agents, your FSA offices. We'll be getting National Black Growers Council, and we'll be getting out information as well. Also, too, the National Black Growers Council will be having farm field days next week. They kick off the first one in Tanner, Alabama. And it's the Bridgeforth Farm. So we'll be over there. Also, too, we're going to be traveling this summer. Fort Valley State University has a mobile classroom. Get this. Oh, wow. They've got like 14 computer stations with a teaching center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, teaching center with internet, and so we're excited because it'll be hot. And
so it'll be a cool place, a cool place to be. And you know, shouts out to Fort Valley. They're trying to bridge this technology gap, because we have to remember that a lot of these farms are in, you know, very rural parts of the country, and sometimes internet broadband is not there, and there's a big digital divide. So, you know, Fort Valley is deploying, this truck throughout, not only in Georgia, but this truck is being deployed throughout the Southeast in a goal to help bridge that digital divide, but also use it as a conduit to educate and keep educating farmers and ranchers. So excited about that. So, Joe, 2 years, you know, you're obviously with Datos, you're the brainchild of creating the technology that goes behind it. And RMA saw the need and saw that this would be a great opportunity to really put a game changer out there. And from what I've heard and what I've seen in demonstrations, that this is the real deal.
Well, first of all, I'd like to think I'm the brainchild. I'm not. Okay, LaGrand. At best, I'm just a good listener.
Okay.
And so I've had the ability to work with banks, and Windmark Crop Insurance Agency is a nationwide insurance agent I work very closely with. Mr. Kelly Dietering has had a lot to do with our knowledge and structure of crop insurance. Sure. And so really, it's being able to sit down with farmers. We're farmer-owned. Is sitting down with the agents, with the banks, and listening. And using, you know, I'd like to think our special sauce is we know how to create the databases and bring things together. But really, this whole project has been a team, and that's why we wanted to name it Team, because there is no one person that's.
I like that. I never heard, you know, team acronym like that. That's cool. I can remember that. So with T.I.M.E, what is the goal? What is the end goal of T.I.M.E? I think I see it, but I want, you know, it to come from you. What do you see T.I.M.E as being the end goal for farmers to get and start utilizing these robust, financial farm management platforms?
The end goal is I believe that it is critical that farmers have an app. Very similar to Amazon. Very similar to Apple. So think about our go-to apps that we use every day. That makes your life simple. It makes your life easy. Agriculture is defined by all these silos where you have to go to different places and you never get to quick correct decisions.
You never get the full color of it.
You never get the full view. So my end goal is I'd like to see T.I.M.E on every farmer's desk where they have their vault. And instead of having receipts stored in their truck in their console, it's actually organized in a vault.
In a vault. So, and you told me some neat features that it has. You would give me an example that if I was on T.I.M.E, I could go wherever I went and bought my fertilizer from. Instead of me keeping the receipt, I could tell them to email it to that, and then it goes directly into my T.I.M.E vault.
Goes to T.I.M.E vault, and that also it saves you some time with your CPA.
Yeah, it does.
Because organizing those papers, those receipts for seed and chemicals.
Yeah. So I can tell them, hey, print me one out just so I got a copy of it, but email it to this email.
Right.
And once they email it, whether it's fertilizer, seeds, implement, whatever it is, it'll automatically go to into my T.I.M.E vault.
Right. That's where we see the data collection, storage. We make that easy on the farmer because the farmer's paying all these people, to help him
so that they can farm.
Let's make it easy on the farmer. If he's going to buy you seed, then email his receipt for your seed.
And that really helps to help with the record keeping, as I spoke about earlier. When we first started that. In my travels, that record keeping seems to be a challenge, and it seems like T.I.M.E really helps alleviate some of that challenge because it's making it easy to put everything into one place. And like you said, if it's not the bank siloed or the crop agent and all these people, well, even as a farmer, we're kind of siloed in ourselves because we have so many different things going on. And when somebody asks us, hey, I want to get a new tractor, it's like, okay, I need to send me your financials. So now we got to go hustle and try to find this stuff versus having all this stuff. It's like, okay, you need this, no problem. And correct me if I'm wrong, with T.I.M.E, once they sign that SaaS agreement, and the SaaS agreement is basically saying that we will secure your data, we will not sell your data, this is your data, this just says that this is legally binding that we cannot do so.
Illegally, we can't. We actually, I had one of our friends from on the board of the National Black Growers Council was called me and says, "Why do you have this long contract?" and I said, "Well, that's for the farmer."
Yeah.
And I said, "Believe it or not, it was actually written by our attorneys and a bank's attorney and insurance attorneys to make sure legally that data cannot be shared. And we have an authorization agreement. I said the SaaS agreement protects the farmer.
Right.
The authorization agreement protects me.
Right.
Because if you don't give me written permission to share it with your accountant, he's not going to get it.
And this is how, if you do that, this is the beauty in how this world would work. So if I gave you all the, hey, do what you need to do, I can continue to farm. So you're the one that will be tracking down, hey, I need to call you give me permission to call the FSA office to get your CCCs and all the other forms we'll need. You give me permission to talk to your crop insurance agent so I can get your Schedule F. So you give me permission and that's just an option. If they got all this stuff, they can just give all this stuff to T.I.M.E, right? But if not, this is how you can procure those materials.
I'll give you a good example. My company, I don't have time to do the accounting and finance and all of these, keep up with all this data.
Right.
So as the CEO of my company, my accounting team, my CFO brings charts and tables and graphs and informs me, and I'm able to provide my input.
Right.
So it's structured where my job has to be easy in these various functions so I can do what's most important. The most important thing that a farmer does is produces. And believe it or not, yield is far more important than market price. If you can produce more yield, that will offset bad prices. And that's what's so special about our American farmer. They can grow. So T.I.M.E, the technology, the process of doing things better is to free up their time where they can grow more. But all of this, all this financial decisions is easy. Had a big farmer up in Missouri made a very interesting comment. He said, Joe, the money's not made out in the fields. He said, Mother Nature controls what I'm going to grow. He said, the money of farming today is made here in this office. And he said, we've got to be able to purchase seed chemicals at the best prices. We have to really know what we're going to grow and where we're going to grow it. We've got to be able to insure it and then we have to be able to market it. That's where farming of today, and that's where the farming of the future, that's where profits of the future, that's where they are.
Sure.
And so that's really, as I mentioned earlier, we listen, and that's something that really resonated with me, particularly as I mentioned earlier about how crop yields have plateaued.
Sure.
It's harder and harder to produce more yield.
Yeah, it is.
So the income, if you think about it, is really in this process, and it's worth the time.
It's worth the time. It definitely is, Joe. A lot of good stuff, Joe. So, okay, I'm a farmer, 1,000 acres, Mississippi. I'm ready to go. What's my next step in getting on T.I.M.E?
Okay, you'll sign your sales agreement and your authorization form. And so once you sign that, we'll start collecting your data, and you'll give us instruction. It may be it'll go over to Joe Jennings, who runs our client services onboarding, and so it may be. I want you to talk to my crop insurance agent. We make the call to the crop insurance agent. And literally send a text, make a telephone call. We have the authorization, and from the crop insurance agent, we will collect things like the 578, the schedule of insurance, the yield history, your base acres, your 866 report.
Sure.
The data that it pertains to the farm, we can collect that from your crop insurance agent. Now, we have farmers that say, I'd like to have 3 years worth of my tax returns. And we actually take those tax returns and we can convert it to a per acre. So when you see that, okay, my Schedule F, I've spent this much money on seed, chemicals, fertilizers, fuel, labor, we'll take the acres that you produce. And now you can see your cost per acre historically. So this is why I mentioned earlier, we spoke about your equipment inventory.
Yes, inventory.
So think about this. If your repair bill is very high, above average, I'll bet you can go back and look at your equipment inventory, and you're going to have older equipment
that you
piece off. And so there's a question: can I get new equipment? And what I'm paying in excess repair bills,
repair costs,
can I use that for new equipment? Do I have too much small equipment? Can I go sell this, get one piece of larger equipment? So it really embeds ways.
Management. I mean, that's how you manage.
For you to manage,
you're able to manage,
and you're able to see this so clearly.
And there's no way you could come up with that concept of like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I got a $15,000 tractor repair bill. The DEF system went out. Whatever. Now I gotta, figure out. When I look around, well, I'm gonna go to my T.I.M.E. Let me go to my inventory sheet, see what we got. Yeah, I got these 2 8 rows back here. Let's part them out or do something with them. If we can't get the whole 15,000 back, at least we can split the baby, as they say, and at least some of it versus none. And that's the importance of, you said earlier, by having inventory, everything right in front of you, so you see everything.
Well, this is really important, particularly for our black farmers, because as we mentioned earlier, typically smaller farms.
Sure.
And I was surprised to see that a lot of times the land is not the most fertile land in the county. And so that's a drag on profits, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really important to understand, how productive is our land, how much versus the county, because it makes it even more important for us to know that cost of production, to be able to negotiate, to get the best cost on seeds. And it makes it really important for us to manage profits, to look at our debt structure, our interest rate structure. One of my biggest concerns, and we've seen interest rates have doubled. Just think about this. It's only a couple of years ago that we were spending, if on a let's say a $400 an acre production loan, we're spending $12 an acre. Now we're spending the interest. That's the interest. $12 an acre. Now the interest could be $40, $50 an acre now. Think about that. And when you realize that historically the profit margin, say on beans, is about $100 an acre, that interest is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And the ability to get the credit that you need. This year I probably have personally been involved with banking about 30 farmers, helping them with their bank, because these are folks that are having some trouble.
And Joe, that's where I see T.I.M.E being that great equalizer. That's why I think this thing is awesome and people don't know it yet. That's the end goal. I asked you about what the end goal of T.I.M.E. To me, that's the end goal, is to make farmers sustainable and bankable. And with T.I.M.E, having all of your information organized, you know what's going on in your operation. Does that make the bank's job easier when trying to go to that loan committee meeting?
Well, within T.I.M.E, we've created a bank lending platform.
Okay.
So community banks can actually use T.I.M.E, and it takes them about 30 minutes to make the farmer the loan instead of about 6 hours.
Whoa, go back. You said a lot there. Now, say that one more time.
Yeah, so we've actually created a bank lending platform.
Okay, what does that mean?
So the loan officer at the community bank actually can use T.I.M.E, and all the information that the farmer, all the farmers
put
want,
in, well, yeah.
he provides that to his banker.
Nice.
And it populates the memorandums. We created the credit scores. All the things the banks know. What are you going to grow? How many acres of this, that, and the other? What are your yields? What is your revenue? Here's your equipment. Okay, we see how much equipment you have. Here's your net market value. This is your equity in your equipment. That's collateral. This is the equity in your crops. That's collateral. This is the payments coming in from ARC or PLC or insurance. This is all collateral.
And you can see it.
Exactly. And so our goal is, you're either, in this world, you're either a price taker or a price maker.
That's right.
And so our goal, you asked me, what are some of the goals of T.I.M.E?
Yeah.
I want to make farmers, we all want to make farmers price makers. A farmer should be able to sit down and explain to his lender or anybody, this is what I'm growing, this is what I expect to yield, this is my projected income at these prices, this is the insurance I have, these are the payments that would come in if things go bad, this is my maximum loss.
So they're looking at risk. You're giving them every reason to say yes and not to say no.
Absolutely. And also there's it's been systemic with black farmers in terms of difficulty getting credit and the cost of credit.
And that's why I think that Team T.I.M.E is so important to black producers. You heard me talk about the stats, and they're continually going downhill, and we hadn't saw that turn, that surge going back the other way yet. That's why T.I.M.E is so important. That this, to me, is the great equalizer to the disadvantaged American farmer or Native American farmer. This is that great equalizer because you can control it. And people, my great grandmother tell me, only control the things that you can control. And with T.I.M.E on your side, these are things you can control. This is your data, but these are on your farm. This is not your buddies, your colleagues across the way or down to the next county. This is your data. This is your information.
Well, and I want to say this directly to your viewers for those of you who want to grow more. You want more land. You want for your young people who want to get in farming. We are in process of going through one of the greatest generational wealth shifts in history. Across the country, I'm seeing that older farmers are getting out of business. So there's going to be opportunities for land. And it doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, doesn't matter you're any of that stuff. You typically going to get into farming through renting. You typically are not going to start out as a landowner.
Throw out the big bucks.
You're typically going to expand your farms through renting. Okay, rent's typically first, and then comes farm ownership. So those opportunities are shifting, and so in order to take advantage of them, okay, your farm financial management needs to be more akin to your seed technology and your tractor technology and your planter technology.
That's right.
And that's the big gap. So think about that big John Deere, that combine. Think about that big spray rig. Okay. Think about the technology and the equipment. And when I looked at how the technology, the process of doing things, when I looked at it across the board in farming, there was a big gap between where we are down here with the financial management and where we are up here with equipment. So there's lots of opportunities, I believe, that's coming up for more management. And the beautiful thing about Team T.I.M.E with our partners, with the HCBUs, with National Black Growers Council, with RMA, we've seen over the last 50 years, institutional ownership is taking more and more control of farmland. Nuveen is a good example. Teachers, CREF, John Hancock, these big insurance companies, they go out and they buy land as an investment in their pension funds, and they rent that land.
So it's just another part of their portfolios.
Another part of their portfolio. One of the things that of the goals of T.I.M.E is we want our farmers and Team T.I.M.E when they walk into John Hancock, they got their stuff together.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and not only can they farm, but the renters can say, hey, these guys can manage too.
Right. And that's the thing. That's the thing. That's what I think bankers love to hear, that word. They can manage.
Yes.
Which is phenomenal. So Joe, if I'm a farmer and I'm sold, like right now, what do I need to do right now to get started to get on Team Tilly?
The quickest way to go is to www.farmtilly.com/USDA program.
Okay. We'll make sure we flash that on the screen for you guys. You guys can QR code it or write it down, but keep going, Joe.
And separately, you can call Kimberly Joe Wilson.
Okay.
Let's put Kimberly's number on, and you can call mine. You can call me too. So you got
call them late.
you can call me today, 901-336-0430, as well as if you're working with extensions at the HCBUs or the FSA offices. We'll be getting some information to the FSA offices as well.
Yeah. Well, good, Joe. Phenomenal talking to you, sir. I'm glad you made the ride down 55 to come talk to Ag and Culture today. I'm excited about Team Tilly. You mentioned that you guys are going to be at a Farm Day event sponsored by National Black Growers Council.
Right.
When is
next Friday. Next Friday in Tanner, Alabama.
Tanner, Alabama. And we'll also, there are some more National Black Grower farm dates throughout the summer, and we'll make sure that we make those available on our site as well.
We'll be at all of those dates as well.
Yeah, promoting Team Tilly, and you'll have the Fort Valley Computer Technology Lab there doing some demos of Tilly while the farmers are there. That's fantastic.
It gets pretty hot on the farm out in June and July and August, so we're excited to have a cool spot for you guys to come in and have some water and see what we're up to.
Joe Jennings, it's been fun. This won't be the last time we'll have you on Ag and Culture. There's so many other things I want to dive in. Next time I get you on here, we'll talk about crop marketing.
Okay.
We'll get into some options, some straddles, some puts, and we'll talk some stuff. Thank you so much, Joe, for everybody watching. Thank you so much for Ag and Culture. We'll see you next time. Stay in the fields.